The Krill fleet had been silent for hours, drifting above the gas giant world of Thyrax. From orbit, the planet looked serene, swirling clouds of violet and silver masking a turmoil no one could imagine. The Krill, a species renowned for their precise minds and advanced technology, were tense. Thyrax, once a jewel of the galaxy, was on the brink of destruction, and its people had nowhere else to run. Deep inside the Krill command ship, Commander Ilrith watched the incoming communications channel with growing dread. The distress calls had been constant for days, yet none could respond in time. Until now. The sudden flare of an unknown signature in the outer rim of the system triggered every sensor aboard the Krill flagship. Commander Ilrith stiffened, instinctively recognizing the pattern. It was unlike anything the Krill had encountered in their history of war and diplomacy. A new energy signature, fast, unpredictable, and dangerous. Captain Mara Voss of the human ship HMS Reclaimer had no idea what awaited her as she guided her crew into orbit around Thyrax. She was used to worlds that tried to kill her, that cracked and burned beneath human feet, yet she had never faced a planet calling for help from strangers. The Krill distress call had been simple and desperate, lacking the subtle calculations that usually accompanied their communications. Mara read the signal aloud to her crew, her voice calm but firm. "This is humanity responding to your distress call. We are on our way to help. Prepare for immediate engagement if necessary." Her crew, hardened by life on Deathworlds, barely flinched. They were used to danger, to situations where failure meant death. They understood risks better than most species in the galaxy, and they thrived on them. The Reclaimer was a warship built not just for firepower but for adaptability. Its hull was scarred from previous encounters with rogue asteroids, pirate fleets, and worse. Its human crew had a reputation: unpredictable, ingenious, and merciless when required. To the Krill, they were an unknown variable, and that terrified them more than the Void Swarm, the mysterious force consuming worlds across the galaxy. As Mara's ship approached the planet, the Krill fleet assembled defensively around Thyrax's orbital perimeter. Shimmering shields reflected the faint glow of the sun, but cracks already marred their defenses. Ships were missing, torn apart by the relentless energy storms that the swarm had conjured around the planet's orbit. Commander Ilrith hailed the incoming human vessel, his voice hesitant but formal. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself. Thyrax is under attack. Do not interfere unless you have clearance." Mara's reply was steady, her tone carrying the quiet confidence of humans who had survived worse than alien bureaucracy. "We are human. We respond to your distress. We will help defend Thyrax. You may not understand our methods, but we get results." There was silence on the Krill side. Humans were notoriously difficult to predict, and this announcement caused ripples of unease across their command network. Yet Mara did not wait for approval. She had seen too many worlds fall while waiting for permission. She ordered her crew to assume combat positions and prepared the Reclaimer for immediate entry into the planet's orbital conflict zone. The first sight of the Void Swarm hit them like a storm. It was not a ship, nor a living creature in the sense Mara had known. It was a mass of shifting energy, a black tide that bent light and heat, consuming everything in its path. Stars seemed to dim when it passed, and even the Krill shields shuddered under its approach. Mara's crew felt the tension, but no one panicked. They had trained for this, though they had never expected to face a force like this. "Captain," Lieutenant Rin called, scanning the Reclaimer's instruments, "the swarm is adapting. Conventional Krill weaponry is ineffective. We need a different approach." Mara smiled faintly. "Then we'll give it one it won't see coming. Prepare the intercept team. We're going in close." The Reclaimer dove into orbit, weaving between debris and energy streams, human pilots exploiting every gravitational pocket and solar flare to mask their approach. Krill ships followed cautiously, keeping distance, unsure if the humans would survive their daring maneuvers. Mara's team, however, was unafraid. Life on Deathworlds had taught them that survival often required bending the rules of physics, improvising, and taking risks that no one else would dare. As they closed on the swarm, Mara deployed specialized drones, simple, rugged machines equipped with energy disruptors and reactive payloads designed to exploit weaknesses. The Krill fleet watched in astonishment as the drones darted like flocks of birds, weaving through the swarm's tendrils, detonating precisely where they could cause the most disruption. The swarm recoiled, its patterns faltering as Mara's crew adapted in real time. Commander Ilrith finally broke his silence. This is impossible. Humans should not be able to manipulate it like this. Mara's voice came over the comms, calm and steady. Nothing is impossible if you understand the rules of survival. Watch and learn. Hours passed, the battle stretching like a storm over Thyrax's orbit. Human ingenuity, combined with their ability to endure extreme stress and adapt on the fly, began turning the tide. The Krill, for all their sophistication, were accustomed to calculated strategies, not the unpredictable chaos of human improvisation. Mara's crew turned the very environment against the swarm, drawing it into the gravitational wake of nearby moons, using solar flares to overload its energy streams, and manipulating debris fields like chess pieces. Despite their efforts, the cost was clear. Krill's ships were destroyed, their proud fleet reduced to fragments. Mara's crew sustained damage too, their reclaimer scarred and battered, yet they pressed on. Every move was precise, every risk calculated, but not every risk could be measured. The humans relied on instincts honed over decades of surviving worlds where every step could be fatal. By the time the first wave of swarm retreat occurred, Thyrax's capital system was a scarred battlefield. The planet had survived, but only just. Cities were in ruins, and the swarm's tendrils still lingered, waiting for another opportunity. Mara stood on the bridge of the reclaimer, her hands resting lightly on the console, her eyes scanning the orbiting chaos. "Captain," Lieutenant Rin said, voice tense, "they're regrouping. Another strike is coming, stronger than before. Thyrax won't hold much longer without a major strategy." Mara nodded, her mind already racing through options. "Then we make them think they're winning. We'll give the swarm a taste of human cunning before it realizes the trap we're setting." Commander Ilrith, observing from his Krill flagship, could only stare. Humans had arrived unbidden, disregarding protocol, and yet they were saving his people. The Krill had long underestimated humanity, dismissing them as primitive and reckless. Now, they were beginning to see that there was a method to human madness, a lethal, unyielding, and brilliant method. Below the reclaimer, the surface of Thyrax burned in swirls of violet flame and smoke. Cities once pristine had become battlefields. Yet, amidst the destruction, human drones and Krill engineers began working together, creating barriers, rerouting power grids, and preparing for the swarm's inevitable return. Mara walked through the ship's corridors, checking on her crew. "Remember," she said to them, "they think this is about strength. It's not. It's about adaptability. It's about surviving where no one else can. They won't see what comes next." Her crew nodded, understanding fully. Life on Deathworlds had made them masters of adaptation. They could improvise, they could endure, and they could fight back when the odds seemed impossible. That was why they were here, and why the swarm would never anticipate what humanity had prepared. As night fell on Thyrax, the reclaimer and its human crew prepared for a new day. The swarm had retreated for now, but it would return. Mara's mind was already mapping the next move, analyzing the planet's environment, the remaining Krill defenses, and the weaknesses of their enemy. Humans did not panic, and they did not surrender. They thrived where others would die. For the Krill, witnessing humans in action was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. These Deathworlders were not just survivors, They were something else entirely. They were unpredictable, unstoppable when cornered, and terrifyingly brilliant. Commander Ilrith found himself both fearing and respecting them, a combination he had never thought possible with another species. The first night passed, quiet but tense. Below, the fires of Thyrax's city still smoldered, and in orbit, human drones continued their reconnaissance, probing for weaknesses and preparing for the next wave. Mara remained on the bridge, staring into the darkness of space. Soon, she whispered to herself, they'll realize that humans are not here to follow, they're here to survive and to win. The stars beyond the planet shimmered with unknown threats, but Mara's crew was ready. Thyrax had called for help, and humanity had answered. They were a force unlike any the galaxy had seen, capable of facing the impossible, of turning death into opportunity, of thriving where others fell. And so, as the first battle ended, the galaxy held its breath. The swarm would return, stronger and more relentless. But the humans, the Deathworlders, would be waiting. Part 1 closed on that tense note, a silent promise of chaos and ingenuity. The Krill had learned a lesson they would never forget. Underestimating humans was not only foolish, it could be fatal. And as the Reclaimer orbited Thyrax, its crew readying themselves for the coming storm, one thing was certain. Humanity did not simply survive. Humanity endured, adapted, and fought in ways no other species could imagine. The swarm would return. But so would the humans, and they would not be defeated. The morning on Thyrax came not with warmth, but with the sharp sting of anticipation. The planet's surface was still smoking from the previous attacks, and its cities lay in ruins. Yet, amidst the destruction, life endured. The Krill, humbled and wary, had begun the painstaking process of rebuilding their defenses, guided by the humans who had arrived unbidden, yet saved them from certain doom. Captain Mara Voss surveyed the battlefield from orbit aboard the HMS Reclaimer. Her eyes, steady and sharp, tracked the shifting movements of the swarm beyond the atmosphere. "They'll strike soon," Lieutenant Wren said, scanning the instruments. "They're regrouping faster than we expected. Thyrax might not survive another full-scale attack." Mara didn't answer immediately. She preferred to watch, to feel the rhythm of the battle before making decisions. Humans were like that, trained to observe, to anticipate, to act with precision when others hesitated. "Then we prepare," she said finally. "We don't wait for them to dictate the fight. We make them play by our rules." The Krill commanders looked at her, a mixture of fear and awe in their expressions. Their species had mastered advanced technology and interstellar strategy, but humans were different. They had survived worlds that had no right to support life, thrived in environments that would kill the strongest Krill instantly, and had learned to turn desperation into ingenuity. That combination made them terrifyingly effective. On the surface, teams of human and Krill engineers worked side by side, erecting makeshift energy barriers, rerouting planetary power grids, and preparing traps designed to exploit the swarm's unpredictable nature. Mara walked among them, her presence commanding but unthreatening. "Remember," she told them, "this fight is not just about firepower, it's about adaptability. The swarm reacts to predictability. We make it learn that it cannot predict us." Hours passed in tense preparation. The humans trained Krill soldiers in Deathworld combat strategies, emphasizing improvisation over protocol. They demonstrated how to use the environment as a weapon, leveraging volcanic vents, toxic clouds, and seismic instability to their advantage. Krill troops, initially skeptical, began to grasp the concept. Survival was not about rigid plans. It was about responding to chaos with intelligence and courage. Then the first signs of the swarm's return appeared, a ripple of darkness across Thyrax's orbit, a distortion that seemed to consume the light of distant stars. Mara and her crew braced themselves. The HMS Reclaimer cut through the thinning atmosphere, positioning itself for an intercept. The swarm descended like a living storm, its energy tendrils lashing toward the planet, consuming everything in their path. Thyrax's defenses, though reinforced by human ingenuity, trembled under the force of the attack. Yet the humans did not falter. Mara's crew moved with the precision of seasoned warriors, deploying drones, redirecting energy flows, and using gravity wells to manipulate the swarm's path. "Captain," Rin called, "their formation is unstable. We can exploit the gaps." Mara nodded. "Do it. Draw them closer to the planetary core. They won't anticipate what comes next." As the swarm surged toward the planet, human and Krill forces executed a coordinated maneuver. Massive energy conduits, modified by human engineers, funneled the swarm's destructive force into a series of containment fields. Lava flows from the planet's interior were redirected through channeled trenches, creating obstacles that twisted the swarm's movement. Toxic clouds and high-velocity winds, unleashed by strategically detonated atmospheric charges, slowed the swarm and disrupted its cohesion. The Krill watched in astonishment. Their technology was unmatched, but human innovation surpassed expectation. Humans did not simply react. They adapted, improvised, and used the very world around them as a weapon. Mara led a squadron of human fighters in low-orbit strikes, weaving between debris, solar flares, and swarm tendrils. Each move was calculated but daring, exploiting weaknesses the swarm had never encountered. Below, on the surface, Mara had stationed a special strike team. They moved with silent efficiency, planting energy disruptors and activating environmental traps. Each action forced the swarm to shift, its massive forms writhing in ways that left it exposed to both Krill and human attacks. The combined effort of two species, one logical and precise, the other unpredictable and ruthless, created a synergy the swarm could not withstand. Hours stretched and the battle raged. Human stamina and adaptability became the backbone of the defense. Where Krill technology had faltered, human creativity bridged the gap. When one containment field failed, Mara's team quickly redirected energy flows, using debris and atmospheric turbulence to stabilize it. When a swarm tendril threatened to breach a city, humans improvised, deploying drones that herded the energy entity into traps. Finally, Mara initiated the final phase of her plan. Using data collected over hours of observation, she identified the swarm's energy core, the heart from which its attacks originated. "This ends now," she told her team. "We strike at the center." The plan was audacious. A small strike team would enter the heart of the swarm, bypassing its tendrils, and deploy a modified energy disruptor designed to destabilize its core. Mara volunteered to lead the team, knowing that her experience and instincts gave her the best chance of success. As the strike team ascended toward the core, the reclaimer provided covering fire, diverting the swarm's attention. Drones flitted like birds of prey, targeting weak points and creating openings for Mara's squad. The swarm lashed out unpredictably, but the humans' adaptability allowed them to navigate the chaos. Inside the heart of the swarm, Mara could feel the immense power radiating from the core. Energy pulses threatened to overwhelm her senses, but she focused, relying on her training and intuition. The disruptor was deployed with precision, and a cascade of energy rippled outward. The swarm shrieked in a manner that no human could understand, its tendrils collapsing inward, and its previously unstoppable force faltered. Outside, the effects were immediate. The swarm's formations dissolved, its energy scattered across orbit. Krill's ships pressed their advantage, firing with renewed confidence, while human drones exploited the chaos to eliminate remaining threats. Lava flows, atmospheric disturbances, and gravitational anomalies, all orchestrated by humans, sealed the swarm's fate. As the dust settled, Thyrax's skies cleared. Cities remained damaged, but life endured. The krill, exhausted but alive, stared at the humans with newfound respect. Mara's crew returned from the strike, battered but victorious. They had not only survived but had turned the tide against an enemy no one else could defeat. Commander Ilrith addressed the humans formally, his voice tinged with awe. "Your species, it is unlike any we have encountered. You do not follow rules. You do not wait for orders. You survive, adapt, and triumph where others fail. Thyrax owes you a debt that cannot be measured." Mara simply nodded. "We did what was necessary. That is what humans do. Survival is not about waiting for perfection. It's about action, ingenuity, and endurance." The krill leaders began the slow process of rebuilding, guided by the humans' methods. Human survival tactics, once considered crude, proved invaluable in reinforcing defenses, managing resources, and planning for potential future threats. The Reclaimer's crew trained krill forces, sharing knowledge of Deathworld strategies, improvisation in combat, and resourceful thinking. For the first time, the krill saw humanity not as a chaotic nuisance but as a model of resilience and effectiveness. Mara walked through the streets of Thyrax alongside krill engineers, surveying the aftermath. The destruction was immense, but so was the opportunity to rebuild stronger. Humans had shown that adversity was not a barrier but a teacher. They had turned devastation into a weapon against the impossible. As night fell on Thyrax, Mara stood on a hill overlooking the surviving city, its lights flickering in the dusk. She felt the weight of what had been accomplished. Humanity had not only defended a planet, they had changed how an entire civilization perceived them. For the krill, this would be a turning point in galactic relations. Humans, the Deathworlders, were no longer outsiders. They were indispensable. The swarm, defeated but not entirely destroyed, had been forced back into the void. Yet Mara knew it would return someday. That knowledge did not frighten her. Humans thrived in the face of danger. They adapted, they endured, and they fought with ingenuity that no enemy could anticipate. The galaxy could throw anything at them, and they would survive, not because they were invincible, but because they refused to be defeated. Returning to the Reclaimer, Mara addressed her crew. "We've done what others could not. Thyrax survives because we adapted, because we fought, and because we refused to fail. But this is only the beginning. The galaxy will test us again, and we will be ready." Her crew nodded, understanding fully. Life on Deathworlds had taught them lessons no academy could impart. Fear was a tool, adaptability was power, and survival was the ultimate skill. The humans had demonstrated it on a planetary scale. The krill, once skeptical and fearful, now looked at humanity with respect. Humans had proven themselves worthy allies, formidable partners, and unstoppable survivors. Across the stars, the reputation of humanity, the Deathworlders, would grow, not as mere participants in galactic affairs, but as architects of survival, adaptability, and triumph against impossible odds. And so, as the Reclaimer departed Thyrax, its engines cutting through the void of space, the planet remained alive, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. The swarm had been defeated, Thyrax saved, and the humans had once again proven the simple truth that others often forgot. In a galaxy that prized precision and protocol, it was humanity's unpredictability, courage, and adaptability that made them the ultimate force. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and Mara knew that whatever threats lay ahead, humanity would face them, not with fear, but with resourcefulness, determination, and the unwavering spirit of Deathworlders who had learned to survive anywhere, under any conditions. The galaxy would remember this day. Thyrax would rebuild, the krill would adapt, and humans, as always, would endure, conquer, and thrive, unchallenged in their ability to turn chaos into opportunity and impossibility into triumph. As the Reclaimer moved toward the next unknown horizon, Mara allowed herself a small smile. Humans had come to a distant world in its hour of need, faced a threat no one else could confront, and emerged victorious. The story of Thyrax would spread across star systems, a tale of Deathworlders who had changed the fate of a civilization. And somewhere in the void, the remnants of the swarm recoiled, wary and cautious. They had faced humans once, and the galaxy had learned that Deathworlders were not to be underestimated. Mara turned to her crew, her voice calm but firm. Prepare for the next mission. The galaxy is wide, threats are many, and humans will always rise to meet them. The crew nodded. They understood the truth in her words. Humanity had survived where others would have fallen. They had adapted, endured, and triumphed. That was the essence of being human, the core of their strength, and the reason no species, not even the most advanced, would ever truly know what to expect from a Deathworlder. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of unknown worlds, challenges, and dangers. Yet Mara and her crew were ready. Humanity would endure. Humanity would thrive. Humanity would rise. And with that, the HMS Reclaimer slipped silently into the void, carrying the promise of survival, ingenuity, and the unstoppable spirit of humans across the galaxy.